Hey BookTube, today I am reviewing The Hunter. Is a Parker #1 novel written by Donald Westlake, writing as Richard Stark. There is a cover. There is another older, more vintagey cover. The Hunter. Maybe also known as Point Blank because of the movie, and also Payback because of the other movie. Point Blank, the one starring Lee Marvin, is probably the one to stick with. It's a 1962 crime thriller novel. Yes, this introduces us to Parker, who is a thief, a ruthless, cold-blooded, super efficient, super good at his job thief who will kill you if you get in his way, and if you cross him, he will hunt you down and he will kill you. And indeed, this book opens with him at his lowest ebb. He has been betrayed. Not to, I don't think it's getting into spoilers. He gets betrayed by his wife and a associate, and he's back for revenge. He's back for payback, as the newer movie might say. It's funny going from number 11, which is where I started the series, which actually just works on its own as a book on its own, to this one. Parker in this one is perhaps a bit more rough-hewn, a bit more scary in book number 1 than he is in book number 11. But it's actually semi-remarkable. There hasn't been that much of a softening. But yes, so he works his way back to some point where he can then go out and get revenge on the people that he wants to get revenge on. It's interesting. In the book, it's a 1962 book this time, so 56 years old. I think I commented on the last book, yes, that in book number 11, the Black Ice Score, that there was just sort of a damsel in distress woman in that book, but it wasn't too horribly sexist. In this book, it's a little bit more. I think you can say a little bit more. These are dames, very much so. The fact that he doesn't actually kill his betraying wife, I half wonder is basically how the book ends up dealing with her. I half wonder is if that isn't the author sort of navigating his character around that, so we don't have him murdering a woman, because I think other than that, primarily all his violence, except for one case of intimidation, is all directed at other men. Now there is interestingly, like, there's one scene here where it's not Parker, but it's another man, and he's hiring a prostitute, and it's basically drawn out as this is the text version of a Playboy playmate, and it's done really well. And indeed, Donald Westlake had a background in, as a lot of pulp writers did, of, you got to make that money. He wrote a lot of softcore porn books, or softcore. I think they might have been called gentleman's magazine books. I haven't actually looked at his stuff, so I wouldn't know exactly how far into the porn side of things it gets, but definitely erotica. And this is very much that kind of a scene of erotica. It's interesting, like, that it's done with the coward, not the manly man that Parker is. Parker, who as with the other book, only goes by Parker. He has no first name, which indeed I think somewhat represents exactly, it's just a last name basis. That's all you need to know, even as the reader. You're not going to get that close to Parker. Interestingly enough, you're talking about kind of sexuality and stuff, like with women. They talk about Parker and, like, yes, he has sex with his wife, but it's like after a job, he has really intense sex, and then it tapers into like celibacy until the next job, the next crime score that he can do, and then it goes and then tails off again. And indeed, Parker seems to be a man who has a cycle. It's like, do a job, live on that money, party, or whatever, party or live the good life until it's gone, and then find another job, and then another job, and it's gone. And he works very independently. He's not a employee. It's interesting that he comes in contact with what's called the syndicate, the organization. It's basically it's organized crime, and they're say like, oh, we're organized like a corporation, and it's like, yeah, you could join the corporation and be a drone, and he's very much, nope, I'm an independent, which I think is you think of the American mythos. It's like it's the rugged individual, and Parker very much is a part of the rugged individual. He doesn't have the morality that you often get in a lot of those things of the good guy, rugged individual. This is a rugged individual who's like, I'm out to get what I want, and I'll kill you if you get in my way. And it's interesting. He says in this thing, he gets away from his pattern of like a job, living on the money, and then a job, and then living on the money, because he's betrayed. And now what is his cycle for this has been, which he, I guess, supposedly consciously knows, is that I'm going to get my payback, and everybody along the way who messes with me or things, I'm going to ruthlessly track down, and I'm going to pay him back, which usually means I'm going to kill them. And it's one of these things of, it's like, he's an engaging character, and there's sometimes you feel, I don't know, just watching him enact his plan, that gives you side with him. But it's interesting, by the end, he's like tracking down smaller people who've betrayed him, and you think, why don't you just let that go, dude? But it's like, nope, that's his thing, and he's killing people that you kind of like, oh, you are. It's like this is like a straight version of the Talented Mr. Ripley, if you've read the Patricia Highsmith books, where it's the sociopath who goes along and gets what he wants and constructs his own identity and murders everyone who gets in his way along the way. So it's like, Parker is like, kind of a straighter, maybe slightly more put together version of the Talented Mr. Ripley. He's got that kind of a chill and a coldness to him, which is quite the thing. And it's interesting because by the end of the book, it's like, they talk about like a murder mystery where the detective comes in and like, oh, there's chaos, something's been unsolved, and by the end, the detective brings it full circle and restores order. The killer is caught and order is returned. Well, in this book, there's also very much a sort of a cyclical thing, where at the end of the book, yeah, the cycle has begun again, and you half wonder, it's like, yeah, and he's gonna just end up murdering a whole bunch of other people by the end. But yeah, so it's an interesting book, written in 1962, so very much a snapshot of, if not accurate of the time. It's very interesting shot of views about authority, a distrust of authority, about male sexuality, of these kind of like perfect images of femininity that are created to sell to males, which is obviously how much things have changed, how much we accept these things now, is all to the interest. But yeah, so that was The Hunter by Donald Westlake, writing as Richard Stark. And I will probably I've done number 11, I've done number 1, and now I'll start working my way back up to number 11 and do that. So more videos later.